Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, brought to you by our show partner Join Cycling. We have a weekly show which is more like a medical bulletin. We have news about a biathlete being signed. Decathlon keeps staying in the press. We've got the preview of Dwars Lanterne tomorrow, as well as some hilly races beginning. We are slowly beginning the transition to some hilly races, including Volta NXT Classic. And we'll recap first Coppi, Bartali, and Tourangelle, neither of which had really... Yeah, they were both on YouTube only, I think, Benji.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the coverage wasn't that gigantic, but it does have a few maybe storylines to jump into. But I think I'll let you carry Coppi and Bartali because you've been speaking about that race so passionately for the first half of the season. It's like, how would you rate the following races, Patrick? Tour of Oman, Alula Tour, Coppi and Bartali, and Tour de France.
Oman. Yeah, Coppi, Alula, Tour de France.
Okay. I'll let you kick off Coppi and Bartali. I don't have any words in response to that.
Coppi, not televised live this year. Doesn't matter what you do is you just don't look at your phone for 3 hours and then watch the YouTube replay like it's live. Very simple story. And I didn't like the parkour this year at all. Got to say, no real uphill finish. It was just the same stage every day, basically, with the last stage did have a harder 15, 12-minute climb. Strong punchers here. Axel Laurence, the spearhead for Ineos, and Mauro Schmidt, the leader for Jayco. And basically, those two teams were the strongest in the race. There were a couple of nice first-time winners from the Italian club teams, but otherwise it was Laurence who won 2 stages. He was going into the last stage only 2 seconds ahead of Mauro Schmidt. Jayco attacked with Hatherley on the 12-minute climb. Then Schmidt bridged across to him. It was a very technical descent, and Laurence did a crazy descent, got across them like halfway down the descent, actually, almost too fast. And it was very interesting what would happen in the final because Jayco went from attacking Laurence with Hatherley, but he couldn't really attack him on the descent, also because Schmidt's not the best descender. Then on the flat, Hatherley started pacing to keep the gap to the group behind, which was led by Schiffer, Yadi, Christian Vanderlei, Andrew August, and Thomas Pesenti on Polti. And then Hatherley's leading out the sprint. And I was like, shouldn't Laurence actually drop his wheel? Because Schmidt's 2 seconds behind Laurence. And then if Hatherley wins the stage, then the delta is only 2 seconds between Schmidt and Laurence, even if Schmidt beats him in the sprint. And then he would have to take the lead, maybe. So, actually, yeah, it was interesting. The final was really interesting. Anyway, Hatherley leads it out. Schmidt launches from behind and wins the sprint ahead of Laurence and wins GC in the process. So 2 for 1. Hatherley on third. Then Aliotti leads a group of Fabro, Pisenti, Fancellu, Boneu, Schiffer, and August behind. Schmidt wins the GC by 2 seconds. Hatherley third, Pisenti fourth, Schiffer fifth, August seventh on stage placements. Yeah, not the best route. Like, really, there shouldn't be 5 guys on the same time and being decided by stage placements in the top 8 in a 5-day stage race.
Yeah, I agree. That says a lot about the parkour, but also in general, it wasn't because of that the most captivating Coppi and Bartali ever, because I remember in the last couple of years that I was like immersed in who would win this race. This year, a little bit less. But I want to move over to another smaller race because we discussed all the big races, to be honest, in separate podcasts last week, like Gent-Wevelgem and Catalonia and so forth. But there was also a small French race, La Route Tourangelle, where I want to talk about the winner a bit because basically the race was won in a bit of a versatile sprint where Clément Venturini won the race. And Venturini hasn't won in a long time, I think like 8-ish years, to the point where he's been in the sport of cycling for a while. He had an off-road career for a bit. He was a very good off-road rider. On the road, he was quite successful in terms of UCI points gathering, I remember at least in the last 7 years, I would say. And he was never a much-winning rider, but isn't Clément Venturini the guy that won 3 to 4 years ago the French Cup 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, he was always up there in the French Cup from top 5 results in these sort of races. And indeed, he was part of Archaea last year. Didn't have maybe had a contract offer for a while. Maybe was expecting too much. And yeah, he wins this race. He's going to be doing basically all the French Cup races for Unibet. And he's only 32, so if he racks up 800 UCI points and a couple of wins, then he's going to get a better contract than he has this year. It does go to show, I think, 2 big improvers this spring, Benji. And Lund, in results, that is. Lund, going from picnic to decathlon, and Groenewegen, which, hand up, I 100% got that one wrong. It doesn't matter what he does for the rest of the next 18 months or however long the contract is. It does not matter. He's already achieved enough. Why do you think that is? Because Groenewegen at Jayco looked the best part of washed half the time. Or were we not analysing him at Jayco correctly?
Well, I think there's 2 angles to it. The first angle is the races he's winning is not a Tour de France stage, etc., which is the races that the team of Jayco would be sending him towards, like that was the big races were the focus for Groenewegen as well, although he was being sent in preparation of a Tour de France, for example, at the start of the year to win a Lula Tour to try and outsprint pretty big sprinters in some years, including Merlier, who goes to that race sometimes. So I don't know, maybe the schedule is a slight bit easier, I would say, in terms of Groenewegen's schedule this year. But on the other hand, his level is also higher. As simple as that. Because I remember the days where Groenewegen struggled to get to the sprint at some of the bigger races during his Jayco days. And right now he looks pretty dominant. His lead-out's good in Reinders in those races. The Tour of Bruges was a massive World Tour victory, of course, for the team and for the rider Groenewegen this year. And I think the level I've seen of Groenewegen is good enough to compete for a Giro d'Italia stage win. The team is going to the Giro instead of the Tour de France, because ASO picked Caja Rural over the Rockets for the Tour, but I won't jump into that topic anymore. But for the Giro specifically, Groenewegen looks good enough to be competitive for a Giro stage. And Van Turini winning this one doesn't mean Van Turini will keep on winning across the year, but it's an extra victory for the team. So that's a massive thing. But you mentioned Lund Andresen there for a second. This topic was not on our notes, but Olaf Kooi was the man for Decathlon CMA CGM. That's CGM CMA. I don't even know what order it is anymore, but he was their sprinter for the races that exactly Lund Andresen is doing well in right now, in terms of competing in World Tour wins, plus, on top of that, being a classic sprinter, which is what Kooi was trying to become as well. So I feel like Lund Andresen has completely replaced the exact results I was hoping Kooi would get for Decathlon before the season started. I think they're in a bit of a pickle in that sense, or a luxury pickle, you would say, because it wouldn't shock me if this Lund Andresen is just as good as Kooi.
Well, in Kooi's best season, he wouldn't have better results than this at this point. 3 World Tour wins, a World Tour one-day win, and 1,500 UCI points. Winning the sprint in the bunch in E3, second in Flanders. Yeah, maybe Kooi wins that sprint in Flanders, but Lund is much more likely to make the finish. Although with the size of that group and the riders in, I think Kooi would have made it, to be honest.
I think Lund is more versatile, though. If I compare
what he did
the
in
two,
Kerner, Kooi could never do.
Yeah. I'm more looking at like what their Grand Tour setup is now, because on paper, what is their Grand Tour setup? Because Kooi is still out, of course. I don't know when Olaf Kooi will return. Right now, he's scheduled for the Tour de France. When it comes to Lund Andresen, he is scheduled for the Giro d'Italia and then the Copenhagen sprint afterwards. It's a bit difficult, isn't it? Because you don't know what level Kooi is going to be by the time the Tour de France hits without racing in his legs. Lund Andresen could win a Giro stage, can even fight for Ciclamino at the Giro. So he can actually score quite high at the Giro d'Italia. Like, who are the sprinting competitors at the Giro? Milan?
Milan, Manier, Groenewegen, Groves.
Milan has not been the most dominant Milan we've seen this year, so it's very possible that he loses a couple of sprints at the Giro. Lund Andresen is more versatile, so for Ciclamino that helps.
Ciclamino often is the easiest one for a pure bunch sprinter to win because the points allocation. Also, no one can make... Good luck to you if you can recount what the intermediate sprint rules are at the Giro. I have no idea. Like, there's 3 sprints with different rules. But yeah, he can. Who's their GC leader there?
Gull, right? He's doing Giro Tour.
All right, well, ignore him. Go with Lund and just win the Ciclamino, I would say.
Okay.
But why do you think he's performing so well?
Well, I think it's not just Lund. I think we've seen a betterment of all the riders that have joined Decathlon this year. Dan Hole, for example, has joined as well. My page isn't loading, but the rest of the transfers, Kees Bol, for example, the way he podiumed that UAE Tour stage is much better than anything I've seen from Kees Bol in the last couple of years. So I don't think it's just Lund Andresen. I think it's the riders that have joined that are performing better than I expected. And that is what makes me sad about the riders that have joined and aren't able to show themselves in Benoit and Kooi. Because I'm curious where they would have landed if they also had a slightly better performance this year based on the average of their other transfers, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, then you'd have a luxury of Kooi plus Lund. They would be on, they might be on 14 wins by now. Who knows? And so, and even better in the classics. Although the classics, they've looked very, very good. Yeah. Having numbers in the final. So, yeah, interesting to see them performing so well. Before we get to the medical bulletin, a word on our show partner, Join Cycling. If you're wanting to stay consistent before an event you have, I would encourage you to download the app, check the events that are in the Join app. If you're just scrolling through it now, there's literally an event every day. If you're signed up to anything, be it Luke probably flying in 2 days for the Volta Limburg Classic Gravel to the massive Grand Fondos, the Mallorca 312, although I think it might be a bit late to start training for that. Even more likely going to events in the start of summer or in the middle of summer.
L'Étape du Tour.
Exactly. Those sort of events, but even much smaller ones around the world, you can see them in the Join app. And then if you click on it and just join event or say create training plan, it will already have your level in there. It will create in the app immediately a training plan for you, which is even you can filter by the distance you're doing in the different events because some are longer or shorter options in there. So I think that's really, really cool. Takes the guesswork out of it. Go to the link down below. Make sure you actually are able to enjoy the events you're doing, being, in the best fitness possible. That'll make the day a lot more enjoyable. I'm doing the Alpe d'Huez.
The Alpe d'Huez?
Yeah. Like where you do Alpe d'Huez 6 times.
So you're climbing Alpe d'Huez 6 times?
Yeah. It's not
Good
hard.
luck. Should I buy your coffin already? Or
It's not hard.
Not hard. Just cycling LT1 for 2 hours times 6.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. What's funny? I don't understand. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
If you just keep pedaling, you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyway,
that is the biggest myth ever, though, isn't it? They're like, cycling doesn't get easier; you just go faster. Absolute myth. Absolute.
What do you
myth.
mean?
If you get fitter, and then you do one of these big events with hard climbing, it will be easier if you have trained and if you're fitter.
I agree with you. But I think from a certain point, you become too competitive with yourself where you just ride faster and challenge yourself more.
Control your brain. Channel your Joao Almeida.
Okay.
Just do your watts.
Talking about Joao Almeida, let's talk about the medical bulletin. I went through this list and I tried to make a list of the most relevant riders, which I don't mean to say that riders aren't necessarily relevant with other injuries, but there's so many riders with injuries at the moment that we can make a 5-hour podcast about them. So we're going to focus on the ones that are most relevant to the upcoming races. And I want to start with Joao Almeida as well, because we just spoke about him. He just posted a little quote, or at least said a little quote in an interview saying that he needs to rest and see what's wrong with him. Because like you said in the podcast yesterday, I think, or the day before, his form in the last few days of Catalonia weren't actually all that related to the crash, was related to an issue that he has that he doesn't know what it is. He feels a bit sick, fatigued, whatever, and he's trying to figure out what it is. So let's hope Joao can figure that out as soon as possible, because the Giro is coming and the clock is ticking sadly for him. And to be honest, when you have an injury and you know what it is, I can imagine that being a situation where it's much more hopeful, sounds weird, than being injured and just not knowing what it is, because you don't know how long it's going to be until you recover from it, how long it's going to be until you find a diagnosis on what you have. So hopefully Almeida's struggles can find a resolvement fairly soon. But another friend of yours, Patrick, Laurens Rex, crashed at Gent-Wevelgem pretty early on, and Snel Quickstep has posted a medical update stating Rex, quote-unquote, suffered a dislocation to his right knee, which has caused bone and ligament damage, which will require surgery. And my input there is he'll probably miss the upcoming Cobble Classics. Now, bone and ligament damage. Our local Dr. Luke is MIA at the moment, but Patrick, you're our local legal doctor. Bone and ligament damage, is that just a very wide range of things, or is that pretty bad?
It's bad enough to merit surgery, so they had to go in and fix it. It wasn't just that the ligament would go and heal up on its own. But yeah, he's definitely going to be out of Roubaix and Flanders, which were probably Roubaix was the biggest race he was going to be a big contender for this year. It's the classic that suits him the best. He already top 10'd it, and it's a big shame for him. And I don't know what to say. Just more pressure on Sturven and Van Baarle in that race.
True. Tom Pidcock fell into a ravine at the Volta a Catalunya in that same stage where Almeida crashed. He was drinking on the descent and misjudged the corner. He overshot the corner and fell into that ravine. He was actually only found by talking to his race radio. So I've gone through this story a lot of time, and we'll get back to it later with a different topic, where GPS tracking should be very valuable in a situation like this where a rider is off-road, especially with the UCI so fanatically trying to get radios out of the sport. If there was no radio here, good luck on Pidcock and his team for finding him. So the race radio was very relevant here in finding Pidcock. Now, he also has the same description of injury, bone and ligament damage in his right knee and right wrist. So I don't know whether surgery is necessary for that one. I don't know what this injury means or these struggles mean towards the Ardennes. Do you know anything about whether he can ride the Ardennes or not? Because right now he's still on the start list, but I'm a little bit worried.
I have no idea, to be honest. I mean, UAE normally pretty early with their announcements, so normally they do a hot like all 3 in 1, and they'll do that probably at the Monday after Roubaix. I would say, when did he do it? Sanremo, that was last week.
That was Kristen, eh? I was talking about Pidcock, but Kristen is the same story. Broke his collarbone at Sanremo.
Oh, I thought
still on the start list of the Ardennes.
Is Chile. I think he'd be fine.
Okay. Let's hope so, because I'd like to see him at Flesh and so forth. But you're right about Kristen. Like, I assume he'll be back for Sanremo, but then again, Wellens is also a bit of an unsurety, because I think he's back on the trainer again. With his collarbone, of course, because collarbone allows you to be on the trainer pretty soon.
Normally, you can do the Ardennes if you've broken your collarbone on opening weekend.
Yeah, but was Wellens planning to do the Ardennes?
Don't know.
Kristen probably was, but collarbone at MSR is later than the opening weekend. I assume he can ride those races, but guess we'll find out in the coming weeks. And about another collarbone that probably will lead to missing races is Timo Killig. Fractures collarbone at Gent-Wevelgem and will miss Dwars door Vlaanderen, Tour of Flanders, and Paris-Roubaix apparently. So that's not looking fantastic in that sense, because Killig was essentially in positioning Wout van Aert at multiple segments throughout the last month and other teammates.
He's Visma's best rider at Kuurne probably all round, and like with Laurens Rex, Paris-Roubaix most likely. Big classic and Dwars door that suits those two. So big shame for those two in that crash. Adrien Boissy fractures elbow at Coppi, and so that'll keep him out of action. He started to perform really, really well in his first year professional for Bora. Behrens, the classics prospect on Visma, is having heart surgery shortly, which explains, why he's not been racing in the 2026 season so far. He did have a crash earlier on training camp in February, but then there's this other issue that's kept him out. And Marlon Reusser, I hadn't read the news, Benji.
Well, apparently she's returning to racing soon. I don't have the exact words on when she'll return, but she tagged Flanders Classic, so I assume that's either Dwars door Vlaanderen or the Tour of Flanders in the next week after crashing at the UAE Tour where she dealt with lacerations to her knee and hand and a shoulder injury. But let's hope she's back on the bike soon because she does add to races, especially the strength to Movistar and next to the likes of Kat Ferguson and Leona Lippert. So that's it when it comes to the most important riders I could find for potential injuries. But I want to bring us to a topic that aligns with that a little bit and is not the most enjoyable topic to discuss, but it's necessary. There's an update on the investigation into the death of Muriel Führer, which is the young Swiss rider who passed away after a crash at the Zürich World Championships in 2024. The article from Der Spiegel basically says that the Swiss rider was only discovered 82 minutes after her crash, and it brings an update on the investigation into the death, where the public prosecutor's office found no contributory negligence on the part of the organizer. And before I pass it on to you, I've got a take on this, Patrick, and I think it's a fair take. I find it odd to me that I read no contributory negligence in a sport where, like, I refuse to accept that the sport couldn't have been better prepared for accidents like this. GPS tracking is not a story since 2024. GPS tracking in the sport has been discussed for the last 5, 6, if not longer years in this sport. Riders even have transponders on their bike already. GPS tracking has been discussed for a long time. So it required an athlete dying for the UCI to kick into action with it. And that, in my opinion, is a failure on their part.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read the report of the public prosecutor's office, but I guess they found, that whatever the Swiss legal standard of contributory negligence is, they found that it hadn't happened. Now, whether that doesn't stop you, Benji, from holding that opinion. Like, just because, often we'll see, like, if someone gets acquitted of it's funny for a lawyer to say this, but yeah, just because someone doesn't meet a strict legal standard of something doesn't mean you can't hold your own opinion that they've done something wrong, morally or otherwise, and that they could have done more. That you can still say they could have done more, and it might have prevented this death, regardless of what this finding is.
Especially because she was found 82 minutes after her crash in a closed circuit around Zurich. That is insane to me.
And that's why I was just distracted just then when you're talking about Kristen and Pidcock, because I was looking at the Tour de Suisse route announcements. And it's no coincidence, I think. All 5 stages of the Tour de Suisse men are on circuits this year.
Really?
But I'm like, and is that in relation to they're worried about liability subsequent to the death of Muriel Führer? Like, is that why they put him on circuits? But it's like, she died on a circuit. The circuit didn't stop. Anyway, Tour de Suisse is like, race is finished. Take it out of the big top 7 races.
My controversial opinion is that for the UCI, it seems like safety is a PR thing instead of a proactive, trying to keep the athletes safe thing. And even after Muriel's death, the UCI and teams were squabbling like children over the ownership of the data of the GPS tracking devices instead of prioritizing rider safety in the first place. We've now come to a conclusion that in the last podcast, we spoke about the fact that the UCI has backtracked on that data ownership and is giving more freedom to teams to seemingly select their own GPS tracking system as long as the UCI approves that specific system. So we're moving forward, but it's been 2 years already. It was already a topic before her death. It is so reactive and it feels not right.
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't heard about it for years, or like a year, this case. So I also don't know why it took so long. Like, it's not that complicated, is it? How complicated is it? She crashed during a race.
You're the lawyer.
But no, really. She crashed during the race. No one found her.
For 82 minutes. That's an insane detail, by the way.
And then, you can then look at, okay, what was the organization management plan? What was this plan? Like, how does it take so long?
In the Zürich World Championships, there were transponders on bikes that triggered every lap the what do you call the lap time, so to say, of riders. That's how you on screen then see which riders are. Every time they cross the finish line, you get like a list of riders on the left bottom with like how much time certain riders are behind, in the same way that in CX was the case. I understand that it's very reasonable that there was no one checking that at that moment to see whether riders don't show up. But in the future, that can't be the case, right? Even without GPS tracking, from that alone, it should be possible to view whether riders are missing.
Yeah, I mean, what Pidcock said, pretty scary. Like, and I've seen, like, I remember when Gino Mater died.
Yeah.
I knew Sheffield had also crashed, but that was only because that was like a gut feeling, because he was suddenly not in a group that he was in before. And that can't be sufficient to figuring out if people have crashed. I mean, you need... There was another one recently this year where a guy went over the guardrail. And Trenton went past him and teammate radioed, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember which rider, but...
Trenton saw a guy on another team maybe go over a guardrail.
Yeah.
So...
Happens every year multiple times, by the way. That's why I'm so fanatically against the idea of ditching race radios before we've got GPS tracking.
That was crazy. The race radio, just that we're going to get rid of race radios, because that's the problem. That's why races are maybe sometimes uncompetitive.
And like, we often see when this topic is brought up in social media, we see people that watch the sport say, oh, my computer, my bike computer or my phone can realize that I've crashed and send an automated message to my family members, etc. Well, that technology exists, but that specific application is because you've got your phone with you. Now, riders can't have their phone with them, but that doesn't mean that the technology can't be implemented in some way in like a transponder or something.
The technology exists. It's already being used by teams.
Yeah,
it can show when riders stop suddenly. The teams can see it. This is a solved problem.
Yeah.
So,
is it allowed though? Because I remember there being a document in the sport of cycling that where the UCI is kind of holding back technology to try and prevent cyclists from becoming robots. That's unironically the context of that document signed.
That was the race radio thing. Ago. It was that like the nerd puppeteers like me are like controlling, like, no, you don't do 10 watts too much. Like that happens in a race.
But my point there is that there was a segment in the UCI rules that was talking about the transfer of data from riders to team car. Does a transponder sending crash data fall under that rule? If yes, that should definitely be removed.
But that's positionals allowed. I think always been allowed. I mean, that's what with Velon they were getting their data in like the Giro. But positionals different.
Yeah,
that's just speed.
That's towards the organizer, not to the team car, right?
Yeah, true. But it's just speed. So that's there's no real impediment to that, I don't think. What was crazy was 3 weeks before, no one picked up on this, 3 weeks or something before the Tour last year, one technology provider was approved by the UCI to transmit live power data from the riders to the team car. This was on the back of the race radio discussion. And I was like, what? And just one technology provider, that a company, not Garmin, not a big company, a random company.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on here? Can we have some consistency?
Could you add some context? As in, is this a company that worked with specific cycling teams, or is this a company that worked with ASO and therefore got that license?
I need to look it up.
We can bring it up in the next weekly if you want. We can put it aside if you want. Or I can let you look it up while I ramble on for the people and wave at the camera a couple of times because people love that. Hey guys, hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'll have to find the press release. And I think we spoke about it at the time. Oh yeah, while we're on this topic, what do you think about using power data to catch dopers? That idea?
Oh, I think there's a couple issues with the basic idea of it. Basically, the idea is that you'd have a biological passport, but for power data instead. So a power data passport. And if a rider suddenly veers off their standard power data by a lot, you'd be like, that guy looks to be doping. That's the idea behind it.
All the Shimano team's going to get lifelong bans.
Okay.
So why do you think Van der Poel shared his power the other day from E3?
I generally don't know, but I'm pretty sure that data's incorrect.
Yeah, because he was like, this will be funny. It'll freak out my opponents when they see it overreading by this much.
Yeah, but the reality is that mainstream cycling viewers see a post like that and see, 446 watts or something for the last
90 minutes.
Yeah. 90 minutes of was it E3? And say, whoa, that's like a crazy amount of watts. The reality is, spoilers, I'm not sure power meter brands won't like what I'm about to say. Power meters are historically, notoriously inaccurate, depending on the brand.
Especially some, and especially during the course of a race, they can drift if you don't zero offset them during a race. So last time I checked, Van der Poel didn't have time in E3 to do a zero offset after the Paterberg on his power meter. So,
but that does relate to the topic you brought up, because let's say hypothetically, I'm a professional cyclist. That is already an unreasonable situation, but hypothetically, if I was, I first ride on a, let's say, Favero Asiomas, for example, 1 year. The next year I switch to riding on Shimano.
Both
Every
might
power
be
meter is
accurate.
different.
Yeah, both might be accurate, like consistent.
Yeah,
let's say accurate, maybe not accurate, consistent, but they could read differently.
Because a good power meter is the power meter that reads consistently throughout your usage of it.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily that it's exactly the amount of power you push. It's to know how much you're doing compared to other days. That's the value of it.
For your training, as long as it's consistent for you, it just really doesn't matter whether it's reading high or low, to be honest. I mean, for cross-team, cross-rider scouting analysis can be a little bit annoying.
Yeah.
But that's not a big issue on a rider-by-rider training basis.
But if I switch from one brand to another brand, and the next year my power reads 30 watts higher, hypothetically, which would probably be a big variation, but it's not impossible.
Not impossible.
Then I could be on the radar, hypothetically, for the power data passport, which that's like a false positive, perhaps, in that situation. Then I do think there's value in having a power data passport as like the basic idea of like using it as a potential indicator, but it cannot be conclusive evidence.
I mean, if you want to stop motor doping, if the UCI thinks motor doping is a problem or a potential problem, the power meter data, that'll stop that overnight.
As in, the power data will stop the motor doping overnight.
Yeah, if that's happening. Because if the power... I mean, people can also... How does it work? I mean, people can amend the files afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to get the data live?
I really doubt that.
What happens if they just say, my power meter battery was busted that day? I don't like riding with power. It makes... You have to mandate they ride with power. But yeah, if you see someone riding at 300 watts winning Tour de France mountain stages at 70 kilos, probably there's something up. But, I mean, you don't even need it.
Yeah.
Use climbing estimations for starters. I mean, we know, but you can just tell.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. If from performances, just watch the race. Just watch the races.
Patrick has a doping eye test, is what he's saying.
Yeah. So do you.
Fair.
I mean,
yeah, but it's like, unless there's evidence, your doping eye test is meaningless.
Yeah, but you can't ban someone on a power data test either. You still...
It's
CAS
an
is not
indicator.
going to uphold a doping ban because you push too many numbies. You have to... I mean, they can barely get one over the line with the blood bio passport, where they can say you're not. I mean, they're hard to sometimes win in court. So to do it because you're now you improve too much, it's not going to happen. They can use it for target testing, but I would argue you can already do that intelligence-led target testing by watching the race.
Was this not like discussed online at the same time, where I think it was Pogacar's agent Carrera that said cycling has credibility now or something in response to this specific topic? in an interview, which I think that's a stupid take to give in the first place as well.
Well, just say that this, first of all, it's too fallible, too many different brands. How do you mandate people use it? How do you interpret it correctly? Do you have a better proxy for performance that you can already use? Answer yes, climbing estimations, race results. And D, can you use it to actually win a court case? Probably not.
But if you only use climbing estimations, hypothetically, then how would you perceive it in a cobble race, for example?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Benji.
Because let's be honest, it's
maybe
hard
if
to...
someone all of a sudden was in the final of a World Tour Classic that you'd never seen them before, and they finish in the top 3, it may raise your eyebrows, and you should look at them a bit more closely. Has that happened recently?
Also, with a certain Lascano Edwards of London, but also that also is the same situation in which Matthew Heyman won Paris-Roubaix. But does that mean that should be an indicator for Matthew Heyman at Paris-Roubaix?
Matthew Heyman, he was fucking cooking in Roubaix every year now. Hey, let's see his results.
I'll let you look at his results.
Not Patrick. Matthew Heyman.
Patrick Heyman.
He has one T in his name, which always gets me.
What do you mean?
It's Matthew with one T. Crazy stuff. You should suspend him for that. Tour of Flanders 13th, Roubaix 10th, Roubaix 8th. Roubaix destroys Tom Bonen. Yeah, Benji's just Belgian salty.
I'm just pointing out the clear fallacy.
It was from the
in that
break.
logic.
It's asterisk win. It was from the break.
What is there? Flanders was from the Lascano was from the break as well. To be clear, I'm not protecting Lascano. I'm just pointing out the fallacy in the argument.
Maybe did you need a power data passport to know that when he was attacking Roglic on a 10k 9% climb in the Dauphiné, that was crazy. Now maybe he wins a suspension. I don't know.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But I have no clue what topic we're at because my document just crashed.
Sorry, I introduced a new one. Decathlon have signed Emilien Jacquelin. I do not know anything about winter sports because they are just an opportunity for the Western world to stat pad fake Olympic medals. Do not care. It's like swimming, but for the whole fucking event. And so who is this bloke?
Except speed skating.
Yeah,
Respect
sorry.
skating.
Your wife likes speed skating. Yeah. Oh, she was good. She was an international level speed skater.
Fuck yeah. Anyway, quotes from the press release from the Decathlon CMH CGM. This Emilien dude is a 4-time Olympic medalist in biathlon. That's like Lipovitz, right? But Lipovitz left before he got the medals, I think. Sure. This guy, Jacquelin, has practiced cycling since childhood and uses it as a cornerstone for his physical training. That doesn't mean that he has in peloton experience. I don't know whether that's the case or not. I assume not. He keeps focusing on the 2030 Winter Games in France, which I think is the Winter Olympics, which I assume is then still in biathlon. It's probably not in cyclocross because that's not happening anytime soon. But Emilien wants to explore something new and compete at the highest level in cycling, which I like the hopeful take. We'll discuss that later. But the article also says his explosive power, strong athletic potential, and high VO2 max could make him an excellent sprinter on the road. He joins the Decathlon CMA CGM new gen development team, so not the actual World Tour team. To be honest, I have no issue with a transfer like this. They're trying something. We've seen cross sport people enter the sport of cycling in the way of Primož Roglic back in the day, for example.
That's a myth.
What do you mean? What do you mean a myth?
Primož Roglic was winning like a lot of races before he got signed to the pros.
Yeah, but that was at Adrian Mobile and so forth, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't third.
Yeah, but he moved from another sport to Adrian Mobile. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. At 22, yeah.
Which is fine. I don't know how old this Emilien dude is, by the way.
30, I think.
Close enough?
I don't know.
Question mark?
He doesn't have a PCS profile, so to me, it basically doesn't exist. He's 30. He's turning 31 this year. I also think, I agree, Benji. I mean, Anton Schiffer, started from triathlon, 26, and I think it's possible for climbers to become a sprinter at 30 with no peloton real experience. I don't want to be an old head being like,
I think you're right.
But has it ever happened?
I don't think so. I'm trying to think through.
It is a lot different, all due respect. Just like trying not to crash most of the time, and then on an uphill finish, just doing as fast as you can to like trying to win bunch sprints.
It's not really comparable, but Elise Chabbey is also not a sprinter. Didn't she have like a Winter Olympics rowing, not like a slaloming boat Olympics where she competed?
Yeah.
In 2012, I think.
I don't know.
That's also a cross-sport example where she became a winning rider on the road, but that's not sprinting. But I do think Chabbey's pretty good at positioning. But that's also a longer career leading up to that. She joined the sport of cycling at a younger age than Emilien is here, for example. So that's the obstacle. That is the obstacle. Whether it's with Schiffer, it's also an obstacle in the last year where he's trying to be better in terms of technique and descending, etc. While I'm looking at this Emilien guy and I'm thinking, okay, the biggest obstacle is going to be positioning, fighting in the bunch for positions and towards a sprint. It won't necessarily be the power. Power is pretty important for a sprinter, but overcoming the fear in a bunch sprint, stuff like that. I don't know if he has that. Regardless of the fear, being able to do it without crashing people.
Nah, I think the reason I'm not as skeptical is he says he's always ridden. So he's always ridden a road bike for training.
I've ridden my bike for 5 years. I can't ride in a peloton.
Nah, but this guy he'd be really like riding, you know.
So he like would be experienced in group rides, is how you perceive it.
Like all summer, this guy would be on the bike.
Okay.
And what would be a success? I think if he could just do the French Cup races for them and be a solid enough rider, I think physically he might be talented enough for that.
Even if he becomes a fucking rouleur, it might be worth it.
Exactly. So I'm not...
He's huge as a marketing part as well. Eh?
Is this guy good at biathlon?
4-time Olympic medalist.
Okay, that's pretty good. So yeah.
Yeah, but those are just stat pads, right, Patrick?
Yeah. No, there's like trail running as well. And like I said, I know I'm doing one, but I look at the start line and the results. I'm like, I don't see many East Africans in here. I don't think this is the same level as the 10K in Valencia in January. That being, so what does that mean? I think they're totally fine. Stash them on your Devo team. What do you lose?
Yeah,
nothing. What do you lose?
One position in your Devo team, which you've got unlimited positions there anyway.
Yeah, I'm not hating on it. I'm not hating at all.
Unlimited. I think it's fine.
It's not like he's doing what the Norwegian guys, Blumenfeld, is I'll win the Tour de France now. And then they're like, that they don't do 5.5 watts per kilo for 1 hour. Like they do more than that. And then we didn't hear from it again.
Anyway, the Decathlon CMA CGM makes other moves as well. This was reported by Daniel Benson on his Substack that they're also working on women's team. I think we've discussed this as like the initial rumor maybe in the last year somewhere, but they're now properly working on starting a women's team in 2027. They had discussions with Audrey Cordon-Ragot to potentially be the person with the hat in the team, the manager, but it turns out that they've transferred the path to doing so with Guillaume Bonafont instead, which I remember Bonafont as an ex-rider on Cofidis. Apparently he rode for AG2R as well, but I don't know whether he had a DS role or anything like that within the AG2R team already. I assume he might have, but that's the idea there. The team plans to or looks to start as a pro team with a French rider focus, aiming for 2027 wildcards in their first year, and their objective is to be competitive at the Tour de France Femmes at 2029 and 2030 or 2030. So that's a pretty steep curve, I would say. But Patrick, I swear there's a new rule this year for pro teams or new pro teams to already be able to get wildcards in their first year. Was that not a modern adventure thing?
I think like the automatic ones.
I think the rule is that if you start a new team, a new pro team,
you could get a Grand Tour invite that year because you're exempted from the top 30 rule.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think the points of your teams that you sign are counted together, and those points count as whether you're in the top 30 or not. And if you're in the top 30, you're eligible for a World Tour wildcard.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. I don't know what the rule is on the women's side, actually, whether it's top 30 or top 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there's less women's World Tour teams, right?
There are. And there's always, like, actually, as a proportion, a large number of pro teams. I think there's a lot of young French talented riders. Squibon, Géry, Bunel, Ferrand-Prévot, although she signed an extension. So who do they go for? Who's the, like, French? I think Célia Géry, right?
I don't know, but it sounds like they're not going for like a big time signing for the first year. I think it's like a project, but with a project, it's going to be hard to like ramp up to a massive thing. But also Daniel Benson in his article was mentioning a lot about Canyon SRAM and the fact that they've got 10 riders outgoing out of contract, including Nivea Doma. So they're going to have to do a bit of a rebuild. Anyway, there's a lot of moves potentially at the end of the year on women's cycling. So I'm quite intrigued by that. But should we jump into the race previews, or what are you thinking?
Oh, the last news is apparently PSG are looking to extend their network into a cycling team.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's the news.
Another French team?
Oh, Qatari owned, yeah.
Okay, fair. I don't know what to say to that. Like, how serious is this? Who reported this?
Let me see. I saw
Luke in our WhatsApp.
Mundo Deportivo, Luke in our WhatsApp. Celes Piedrabuena.
You're just naming things right now.
No, yeah, I'm just reading the
That's
thing.
a Portuguese football team, Deportivo La Coruña. No, it's Spanish, right?
It's Spanish, I think, yeah. I don't know. It just would mean more money in the sport, but I'm just kind of surprised, to be honest. Like, this is a strange time geopolitically for that to happen.
Yeah.
Luke says the club's GM in a podcast. Okay, well, if it was, I think he's just not ruling it out. I the way I read the quote was more like they asked, would you PSG be interested in other sports? And he's like, yeah, we could do cycling, we could do padel, we could do pickleball.
Patrick, I promise Visma is not listening to this. Would you be interested in starting a World Tour team?
World Tour? Absolutely not.
I was starting to create a rumor, okay? I was trying to build something. You said something in a podcast, and then some Deportivo newspaper would be commenting on it.
A plucky pro team with no expectations is the best spot in the sport.
Yeah.
Who gets mad at Tudor when they don't do anything?
I'd be down to be like part of like a women's Conti team in like 5 years.
That's a bit not enough, probably. Financial security. Still needs to make some money here. Like Unibet. I mean, it looks like living the dream. Logistically, I'm sure Bas and his team are literally putting out logistical fires left, right, and center. Incredible amount of stress. It's not as fun as it looks. So
I'd rather do a podcast until I die.
I'd rather do a podcast and do scouting and do video analysis for the time being. I think that's actually, I'll stay in my lane.
Talking about staying in our lane.
Yep.
Tours of Lanterne. You can
Christophe
do it.
Laporte, Johnny Mayes is like Dwars of Lanterne. It's one of the easier classics. It's only 185 k's long, and there is a hill section in the middle. That section pretty much finishes with 40 k's to go. They do the Nochteberg. That's followed by the I don't know, Langehoute. What's it called?
What?
I don't know. And then they do the Ten
Holt,
the Holtond, and the Ten Hout, and then they do it again.
Yeah, just multiple laps of the Knokteberg Holtond with a Berchten Hout twice as well.
What wind have we got? Nothing. Not much. What's going on in Rosalara?
Rosalara. Okay, sorry.
How do you say it?
Roeselare? In West Flemish. Roeselare. We gaan een Roeselare morgen.
Roscommon.
You gotta learn West Flemish next, Patrick. I know your Dutch is getting good.
I don't think I do. I don't think I do. So this is, when I look at how the other teams have raced and their behavior, okay, Decathlon, they're going to be all in for Lund Andresen, and they're one of the strongest teams in the race.
Yeah.
You've got no Van der Poel here and Philipsen. Okay, there's another one. You've got no Lawrence Rex here, no Sturven, but a Paul Magnier. Okay, Milan's here, but with Pedersen. That one I can't really read too well.
Yeah.
Lotto with DeLee. You know where I'm going with this, Benji.
I think you're going with the fact that a lot of teams want to bring this to a sprint. I think Little Trek is more leaning towards Pedersen can go into a move. Milan is our sprinter if it comes back together. I think that's the combi there. I think Ineos even has Welsford at the start line, which I'm not sure I'm too confident on this parcours there. I hope for Sam he could, but I see them more as an attacking team with Ghana, Tarling, Watson, etc. Sheffield. Visma is also a team where they've got Brennan for the sprint, but Brennan's pretty good at sprinting, but would I prefer the situation in which Brennan sprints against Philipsen and the whole other gang, including Tobias Lund Andresen, versus having Van Aert and Laporte up the road against Pedersen and Vermeersch and Tim van Dijken? Then I'd prefer the attacking option.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why with Trek, then they can't wait for Milan. I mean, even if you have an easy race, quote unquote, his shape doesn't look like he's surviving.
Yeah.
And then with Visma, you gotta let them race.
Yeah.
Like, especially if UAE are still gonna race with, like, they're gonna race with Vermeersch regardless of what you do. So Ineos are going to want to race even if Wells is there, Sheffield, Ghana, surely, like, and look at Bora. So maybe the second other of the three strongest teams in the Classic so far, Bora have been one of them. And they have no Meus. Got Tim van Dijk, Pithy, Vermeersch. So they're not.
No Kees Bol at Decathlon.
Where's Bol?
He's not riding it.
That's all right.
Pretty good at Kuurne.
It's good, yeah. Yeah, he's all right. And yeah, I think Red Bull are not going to ride passively for Arnemara. They're going to open the race. So I think it's going to be good.
So too.
What do you think happens?
To be honest, like, if you look at the parcours, then the attacking phase is probably the second Berchtenhouten to Knok to Berghoton, then that phase. Could open up earlier, but I see those more as like an attrition clowns before that second Berchtenhouten. I don't remember exactly how the race on the last time, but I think it was on Berchtenhouten where Visma got away with Paulus and so forth, and then we had the glorious finish that is scarred in my mind, but Paulus is injured, of course. Even Evocation first with Luke Lamperti has a sprinting option, by the way, because he had a mechanical, I think, out of the sprinting group.
He was in the Gent-Wevelgem Group 1.
Okay. My pick is... Ooh. I'm feeling Pedersen and Van Aert go on an adventure together.
I think it's going to be a sprint, and I think Arnaud Delis wins.
I don't want the sprint, though. I think the sprint would be Lund Andresen in my head, but I'm going to pick Wout van Aert.
In the women's race, we have very strong UAE team and similar parcours. ELB with Swinkles, Yastrab, Chapman, Persico, Gasparini. It's the strongest team in the race. Even though Kopecky is on the provisional, we don't have many other confirmed teams. Vollering, Shabby, Bertuzzola, Koch, Wallison. Wow, that is also a very strong team. Wow. Okay, they're the two strongest teams in the race. I think SD Works are going to have their hands full. They're
Easier
going to be
route, though? Only one lap of the Knok to Berchtenhouten segment?
Yeah, true. And as a proportion of the race, like a large proportion of the race, 40Ks, like 30% of the race is after the Eichenberg, which is the last real climb. It's not that hard, like you say. It's really not.
I think there's a very realistic situation where UAE once again ends up with like 2-3 riders in a group of 6-7. But I'm not too confident they can finish it off based on multiple times in the past. They did at Binda, but they didn't at MSR, nor at Gent-Wevelgem. Kopecky's pretty good though as a cyclist, you know? So if she rides, then I'm leaning a bit towards her right now.
I'm going Kat Ferguson from a sprint. You've convinced me the route is not hard.
I'm picking Lotte Kopecky. I think Wiebes could do this and win this, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. If Kopecky rode it.
Royce are confirmed, by the way.
Royce is confirmed? Okay, that is good. That makes maybe a more of an open race. I mean, we say that, but for example, yeah, ELB went solo with 30Ks to go last year and won. It's actually been quite a selective race since 2022. So.
Start list is bigger now, though. As in, because it's World Tour, more top-level riders are going to it than
Pro
last
for the
year.
women often, yeah. Okay, good point. Yeah, I think
Peters is here as well, on paper.
I think UAE hold the cards, and if they're really aggressive, it might be, not a sprint. We have GP in Durand on Friday. No real start list. It's a punchy race before Basque Country. Thibaut Nice has won here before, and I'm going with Alex Aramburu to drop everyone on the descent.
That is a beautiful prediction, my friend. I'm still loading the list of races to try and get to
There's
it.
no
There
start
we
list,
go.
Benji. You just make it up on vibes, honestly.
Make it up on vibes, then I'm going to pick Ivan Romeo.
Yeah.
Don't know how.
I'm keen to see how Widar goes. Should suit him this race. But the Basque Country start list looks unbelievably good. Ayuso, Seixas, etc.
Patrick, do you hear it? It's not the emergency podcast signal. It's the Luke wants us to talk about the Volta Limburg next classic signal.
The Volta NXT Classic, also known as the Mini Amstel Gold Race, the E3 to the Tour of Flanders. This is to the Amstel Gold Race. If you win this, you have to be good. It is in Limburg. It's a hilly race on a circuit. Won by Caden Groves before. Pardon?
Story over. Del Grosso wins. Story over.
I think Mauro Schmidt might have something to say about that.
I think Mauro Schmidt is the other one I was looking at.
I think Schmidt's the favourite. Del Grosso, look, he impressed me Teinberg phase of V3. So I think they're the two favourites. On the other hand, I think
Pidcock's here.
Legit? Is he? I can't find the race anyway.
It's Joe Pidcock. I'm sorry. I had to do it.
Oh. Ashlyn Barry.
Of course not. We
just
just spoke about his injury 5 minutes ago.
It's just swelling. Ice it. The Ashlyn Barry just won an Olympia's Tour on the Vanberg, which is basically the same as this. So watch out for the 18-year-old on Visma and Schiffer as well. Who else do I want to pick out? Yeah, Quinton Hermans, Odd Christian Eiking.
This is not a Schiffer race in my head.
No, it is. Schiffer's a puncher.
Not feeling it.
Who do I like? Kockelman. I like Kockelman. He's my pick.
Okay. My pick is Thibaut Del Grosso.
Yep. Okay. I think Kockelman wins like an
No,
up.
who is Luke's pick? Who's Luke's pick? Come on, Luke.
He'll pick his neighbor or something.
Come on, Luke. Is it going to be Fritz?
Yeah, it's got to be Fritz Beast of Boss.
Come on, Luke. We're waiting for you, buddy. I can hear him opening the start list as we speak.
He should know it.
You got 10 seconds. He says, I'm under pressure. That's not a rider. There's no rider called I'm under pressure. Come on, Luke. You can do this.
Yeah, I think Luke's going to pick a Danish guy, and I think it's going to be Rude Junior Nagengast.
You can't even pronounce it.
I know.
Luke is picking Milan Vader. Okay, well, we shouldn't have asked him.
Oh, that's
A disgusting take.
How's he going? Maybe. 20th
He's
in
doing pretty
hand.
okay.
Yeah, he's doing all right, actually. So
I'm not having this.
Not having it? Okay.
Nah.
That was our
Top
weekly
10,
show.
sure.
We just had to finish last bonus recap. Paris Camembert. It wasn't even televised. We have an all French top 10. When was the last time that happened?
Well, is it French? I see Donenworth in there, Patrick.
Okay, one guy who's confused in fourth, but otherwise an all French top 10. Landa Locke's trying to spoil the party in 11th. So I wanted to watch this. So it's a shame. It's a nice little circuit. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Yeah, go to that.
Sorry, yeah, he's very fast in a small group finish.
I saw a video of him cutting down a swing from his garden the other day. So bro's putting the work in at home and in the races. Jonas can learn from that.
No, Jonas, I tell, don't do manual labor.
Clearly, it worked for Gotera.
Did it?
Well, he won the race. Or do you say that without the DIY, he would have landed one by 10 minutes?
I don't know. Just he's a funny type of rider, Gotera. You know, he's not that big, but he's very powerful. He's good in Broe every year. Last 2 years,
So, you're describing yourself. Not
No,
that big, very powerful.
I would never do manual labor. So we're nothing alike. All right. Thanks for listening as always. We'll see you with the preview of the Tour of Flanders, which is this Sunday in a couple of days. Ciao, ciao, ciao.